The living legend Magnus Carlsen's positional ability is often compared to the likes of Capablanca or Karpov on steroids, but the younger Magnus Carlsen was also a magician in tactical play. I'm about to show you one such game. It's quite instructional actually, and let's sharpen our chess ability. Let's get the ELO boost. Let's get it. So this game took place during the Norwegian Chess Championship in Sandnes, Norway. It's 2005, and Magnus is only 14 years old. Magnus plays as white, and Geir Sunnitalaksen Ostmo, which I probably butchered, plays as black. Oh, before I begin and before I forget, if you do find this content helpful and somewhat entertaining, please leave a like and subscribe. You have my gratitude. Let's get started. Magnus plays as white here, and Geir Sunnitalaksen Ostmo plays as black. Magnus is ahead in terms of rating points. He's 25-28, the opponent's 23-49. Let's get started. Knight to f3, positional monster, Carlsen, ready. Knight to f6, c4. Attack in the middle there. e6 by the opponent, challenging the square. d4 standard stuff. b6, we have the queen's Indian defense, where the opponent establishes a light squared bishop that way. g3 by Carlsen, bishop to a6, harassing this. And b3. And the opponent plays something off b. And that's kind of the first thing I want to talk about in the game, at least strategically, is if, unless it's part of your prep, which it doesn't look like it was, don't waste tempo. And the opponent pushed this and had to make a bishop move that made no sense, because it's not attacking anything, it's not creating a threat, it doesn't pose to take over a diagonal. Magnus just ignores. So there you go. Don't waste your time as black, because you're already one tempo behind. Here Magnus, or rather the opponent, continues with d5, castle, king. The white army is fully developed. Knight b to d7, knight to c3, now attacking the bishop, which looked silly. So undeveloped, uncastled. White is up the tempo. It's a semi-open position-ish, so I think we're okay. And Magnus removes the rook there. See, the thing is, I thought the opponent tried to complicate things and hence played that b5 maneuver. But second thing to take note is that you should centralize your pieces. And Magnus does that, of course, and easily. Game continuing with bishop to d6, bishop to b2. It looks ridiculous because it's blocked, but that's a very temporary block, because then there's ideas of break in the middle. Castle, king, now e4. Threatening, of course, for a fork. That looks really stupid if you fall for it. Takes, takes, takes. And now the bishop is back into a better square. Magnus goes rook to h4. Looks really silly, but most ideas happen in f7 and h7 for checkmate attacks and or just tossing your pieces at the king. Here, bishop to e7 was played. Might want to shuffle around and avoid the idea, but Magnus does something funny, which is rook to h3. It can't be attacked in the light squares anymore, and that's not really recommended because you can't move it, but Magnus makes it work and still constantly nags h7 in the h-file, which brings me to rule number 3. If you want to break the rule, you can. You got to create a justification for it. You create a constant threat, and Magnus does just that. So, and while Magnus rook looks super chill and super kind of stupid here in h3, the opponent plays knight to f6, queen to e2, second rank development, light square development, allowing the rook to move, bishop to d5, rook to e1, queen to b8, which is a loss in tempo. Something we can learn from black here. Black's position is not bad. Most tactical melees and checkmates and kingside or queenside destruction happen because of a loss of tempo or miscalculation, and here is one of them, queen to b8. If and when you have a weakness, and this is a weakness because there's 2 pawn islands, what you should do is get rid of the weakness 1 and 2 open. the file. A5, get rid of that. And so much so that after bishop to c3, white will adamantly refuse that, because if he does not, then this is attacked twice. This is open, and the threat here is stupid. In this position, this is actually plus, I don't know, a pawn and something, because you have to constantly defend this pawn, and you gotta watch your queenside. So after, say, the push here, b4, and now you've got tempo and control of e4, and life is good. In the game, the opponent played the tempo kind of losing, queen to b8, and now Magnus plays knight to e5, takes and takes, and now aims for checkmate. Simply, just aims for it, also creating a threat here, which isn't really a threat when you think about it. The opponent plays c5, which is not good, because this pawn was not super consequential. In fact, when the opponent is threatening checkmate, just defend, and there's no breakthrough here. Like, this looks good for white. These are all computer moves, by the way, but just h6, calmly play h6. If Magnus had taken, threatening here, then defend with activity again. Bishop to b4, rook to d1, say, or rook here. Rook to here is actually better. If rook to d1, then just hit. After takes, hit. Second rank. You have ideas here. This is horrible for white. Now that rook can't join the fray, it's very bad. But alas, the opponent did not play that. Instead, after queen to c2, plays c5. And here Magnus tries to trade. If you take, you get checkmated. The opponent refuses and now plays this. Unfortunately, it's a tempo too late, as now Magnus puts the rook on e5. After that, sacrifices the knight. After takes here, threatens checkmate in 1. You can't defend passively because you get cooked. After checks, that's a mate. In this position, after king to g7, Magnus sacrifices the rook. It's a sacrifice because you got to take this rook, or else you have to take it. And calmly plays bishop to c1. You can't go back to the light squares because the queen covers that. So takes, and Magnus shovels here. Now, what happens if you try to go here? Well, because all these squares are taken up, you get checkmated. So that's not what happened in the game. The opponent sacrificed the queen. You have to. And Magnus, watch what Magnus does. He improves this position, which is another point I want to talk about. Check first. Sacrifices the other rook. Why is that? Improving position. Checks on h7. You don't want the king to go back or exit. Takes. The king is in front of our king side here. But after that move, Magnus calmly plays king to g2. You can't check here because that gets taken. Then you have ideas here and here. And after that, Magnus just webs an intangible or inescapable net. Check. Check. If you go here, you get destroyed. The opponent chose the other direction. Check first. This is the only square you can go. And let's him finish with a coup de grace checkmate. So quick recap. Knight to f3, knight to f6, c4, e6. Opponent played the standard stuff for QID, means Indian defense, b3. Plays a tempo losing move, fractures the pawn structure there. Again, don't complicate the position unless it's part of your prep, because you lose tempo. Takes. Magnus is up as white, a tempo, and is up development. e5 castles. And now that ridiculous move gets your bishop shuffled. Your Magnus centralizes. Good stuff. Tries to threaten. Takes, takes, takes. Now the silly bishop is back in the game. It's pretty even. Rook to h4, bishop to e7. Ridiculous, but justifiable if your intentions are sharp, astute, and you have a plan. Knight to f6. Move. Piece of a move. Should have gotten rid of this pawn. Create counterplay. Open the file. After that, black is fine. b8. Magnus creates a threat here, a ghost threat that's defended. The opponent flinches. You should not do that. Instead, just defend. And after, say, takes, hit the rook. Counterplay. Black is basically in the driver's seat here. Instead, c5. Flinches. Now it's too late. Too many lines, too many lines. If you take, you get checkmated. Tempo after tempo after tempo by Magnus. Sacrificing the knight. Taking the rook. Mate in 1. Sacrifices the other rook. Discovery threats. Taking over the diagonals. Mate in 1 if you go here. So, sacking the queen for the exchange. Magnus is too clever. Takes. Takes. Good check. Allowing the king to come into our fortress, but also trapping it in the process. Deep calculation, but improving the position. This is defended. Now the net is cast. The game is over. Hope you guys got something out of that. I thought it was super instructional, and I'm a positional player. See you guys later. Double peace.